Hello everybody, it's Drea again. I wanted to do another one of these start to finish videos for you guys since you liked the last one. And today we're working on Sarah from the Labyrinth, from the inspo deck that we are doing on Patreon, the spooky inspo deck. So I wanted to do her this time in that really classic pose, so I just grabbed a picture of her online and one also that I loved of her hair specifically to get the details on that hairpiece. This is moving fast, so I'm trying to keep up, but so once I got the silhouette, I knew I wanted her kind of reaching out for a bubble, so I'm looking up a good hand pose, like a gentle hand pose, and that was a pretty good one, so I figure we'll just start with that as a base, get it about where I want it. I'm going to stretch it out, change the silhouette to fit more of a 2D situation, and now I'm going to change up the pose on her arms, but I want to make sure to keep the dress sleeves, maybe make them a little bigger, change up the skirt, just making it really Disney-fied, more exaggerated. The proportions always change as well when I'm making things 2D. You know, Disney style heads are always kind of bigger. Not that I'm always drawing Disney style, it's just that my style tends to be somewhere between Disney and maybe a little bit spooky. So now that I've got mainly her pose, I'm stretching the whole thing up and out to exaggerate the silhouette and also create a little bit of movement in the pose. And now it's time for the lines, so you'll see a lot change in her face, but I wanted to make sure I was getting everything just basically in the right place to get her likeness, even though I'm going to be changing what her features look like. I want to make her a little bit more worried, concerned looking. I want to make sure that I get her likeness even though I'm flattening a lot of features to make it two-dimensional. So you can't spend too long on the face, as I always say, especially when you're doing fan art. Getting the likeness is pretty important. So doing the mouth and teeth, I never draw the lines of the teeth unless it's not on a character that's supposed to look pretty anyway. So I skipped that little gap in the front of her teeth there. I don't think anybody will notice in the end. So made her mouth a little bit bigger, just exaggerating everything, and then when I zoomed out I realized, wow, her head is still too small for what we're going for proportionally. So making her sleeves a little bit bigger. Oh my goodness, my sugar glider is visiting me now. I gotta give him a cookie. This is Batman. Hi Batman. You're interrupting recording, buddy. He doesn't care. Okay, so, oh yeah, diamonds are the worst thing in the world to draw. You'll see me changing up maybe pieces of the sketch or the layout, as I call it, as I go. If I can exaggerate something without it looking weird, I like to do that. It just makes it a little bit extra. And it tends to bring some movement to the piece. So I'm doing her hair because I know it's super dark hair, whether it's brown or black. I'm doing it in a second color of lines so that if I need to use lighter lines instead of black lines, to have those lines be seen against a black background, that's why they look blue right now. I decided there's a lot of ways you can draw diamonds. I decided what I'll do is make big outlines, kind of chunky, and then fill them in with sparkles later. And then the rest of the headpiece I'm kind of doing in, the leaves of course are standouts, and then those thin pieces I'll do at the end. So, but the diamonds I want to do in big chunks so that I can fill them in later with color in the sparklies. So, messing with her hair a little bit more. I struggle sometimes with not overdoing it on the lines, or with everything in general. I overdo everything, it's exhausting. But the hair in particular, I can get really lost in just, and I'm adding a line, but a lot of times it looks better with big portions that are just without lines. I've learned that adding lines at the edges of things like hair, clothing, is what really gives it the texture. When I start adding lines on the inside of those blank spaces is where things, it kind of starts to be pointless, maybe even detrimental to the piece overall. I added this little piece of hair in her face. I was giving it a try. In the end, as you noticed, I totally removed it. It was making her look too sad. Like there was a little tear next to her eye. So after all that, I'm gonna go in at the end and delete it, but I'm doing that chunky idea for her diamond necklace there. I want this dress so bad. Somebody make me this dress. I'm futzing with her hair. I don't know if you guys can hear that clicky in the background. That's Batman. Oh, he's back. He's back for another cookie. Hi, bud. There you go. He likes to eat these little omega fishy sticks, and he's minorly addicted. So let's see here. Oh, I'm doing the cardinal sin of making her waist smaller. You should crucify me. I want to crucify myself. It's just for silhouette, but I felt really bad doing it anyway. So for what it's worth, Dre is a monster. Again, just doing those texture lines on the skirt. Trying not to add too many lines. I'm really purposeful about where I place them. I'm doing those big decorative chunks of glittery things on the dress, and I don't want to add too many lines because I kind of want them to just be sparkly in the end. Doing the ends of her hair there. Just exaggerating it maybe a little bit more. As you can see, this can be kind of a long process. This one was probably about 3.5 hours. Coloring the diamonds in can be counterintuitive because I like to go really dark. You almost have to go in really dark and then add the sparkles on top. Makes it look a lot lighter. If you don't go in with a dark gray and you go in with a very silvery gray to start with, you're not going to be able to see the sparkles. It's just going to look completely white. The sparkles I'm using are just a specific brush. There's maybe 4 or so that I like to use just based on what I'm doing. So on this one, I'm using a specific brush for all of the silver that she's wearing. So the ring and her headpiece and all that. So now I'm trying to figure out, is her hair black or is it really dark brown? And I decided in the end it's pretty dark brown. It's pretty clear in the pictures that there's a brown tinge to it. These can be hard colors to capture, but I think in the end those light lines that I did in blue, if you're going for like a brown tone, go for like a yellow line or a red or orange kind of line, somewhere in there. That is sometimes all you need to make it look a little bit brown. If you're going for black hair, a gray or a blue will really make it look extra black, and then you can always still see the lines you did. They won't be wasted. Now I'm doing those little extra pieces of the hair piece. It's always so complicated. I never know exactly what it looks like. It's so ethereal and perfect, and it's hard to capture. So in the end, I thought, oh, I've done too much, and now I'm erasing it in places a little bit. And I think that kind of worked out pretty well. Now I'm coloring the diamonds specifically on the dress and her necklace that are yellow looking, and I had to do it a few different ways with sparkles, and then I thought, oh, I have to actually go in and paint them to make them look right. I used to paint this kind of stuff all the time, and it's more time consuming, but you know, the effect can be a lot better just depending on what you're doing. I did oil painting my whole life before I moved to digital. So I have a lot of skills that I don't ever use as far as, you know, the realism, that kind of stuff. So this was like a little light bit of jewelry painting, just some lights and dark spots. And then I'm copy pasting it and just coloring it in these different areas. Work smart, not hard. So I'm happy with the way those looks. Now we'll just do the skin tone and clean everything up. I always color the skin tones on a dark background because I have found that it'll get messy if I can't see where it's bleeding over the lines. So I decided I don't always do eyeshadow unless the character is really dressed up, in which case, my God, is she dressed up. So now the other part of the dress that's always super hard to get is this magical sheen that never quite looks right. I am tempted to just do white because it's so easy and it looks about right, but I wanted to see if I could get this more magical tone. So what I did was I started with the darkest color I could see in the dress, which was like this dark purple, and I'm adding this like light hexagonal brush. That's the colors you see in there. And now this is me trying 1,000 different sparkles on top to see how they look. And in the end, I settled on this. So it's 3 different layers. It's color, and then the light effect, hexagonal brush situation, and then the sparkles over it. And I thought that added some fun depth to the dress that's just a little bit better than straight white. So now I'm adding her hair wispies that I always do right before the end. I'm kind of messing with the color because that, again, the color on that dress is so complicated. Want to get the right background for her. This one was a block of color and then a brush that I made really large and rotated to get that pink. And then of course I want to do that same hexagon in the background. She's so dreamy looking, it's barely there. And then I'm going to add the bubble, which I have another brush for. It makes everything so easy, magic of digital. So I just took the color out of that soap bubble, and that's how I'm getting the bubble there, and then also for the background. I'm changing the size of them from what the brush has because it wasn't quite right, but now I added some effects in the background, some little magic sparklies, and then over the top of her as well. I'm going to do that at the end here. So now I'm going to do the lighting that I like to do, which is I copy everything I've done. I copy everything into a top layer and make that top layer dark, and I turn up the saturation. So that's where you saw just now I had to change the color on the dress because the saturation was bonkers, so I had to go in and just change that dress back down. But so now you're seeing me erase that top darker layer, and that's how I get the lighting effects. And you'll see me in this case, I'm usually just, as I'm going, seeing what I feel like maybe looks good or not. I was trying to do a more complicated textury thing on the dress that in the end didn't work out, and you'll see me in a minute go, oh, fuck it, and I'll just do more big blocks of light. So in this case, all my careful work was for nothing, and I was like, nope, big chunks of light is what we need. So now I'm messing with the colors on my top and bottom layers just to get it more rich and vivid. And that, I think, is the last thing that I do. I'm kind of messing with those details again a little bit here at the end. And this is the final product. that was start to finish. I did add the quote in later, and as you can see, I removed that little bit on her hair. But I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for listening to my rambling, and I'll try and make more of these too in the future on Patreon. So I will see you guys later.